Hi everyone, it's Melissa, and in the spirit of Halloween, I am making a series of 3 videos where I am sharing some different spooky books that I want to read. In this series, I'm going to tell you about 5 books from different spooky genres: horror, thrillers, and dystopian. Once all of the videos are up, I will make sure that they are linked in the cards and down in the description box. Today, I am going to share with you 5 books that I want to read that could be classified as horror or supernatural books. In no particular order, book number 1 is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. In a way, this is an anti-Lovecraft novel. It uses some Lovecraftian monsters or elements, but with the added commentary in contrast to H.P. Lovecraft's racist views. So in a way, it's using Lovecraft's own works against him, which I am all here for. The book is set in New York City, but in a reality where the souls of cities can become tangible through human avatars. So there is a character for each borough of New York City. I am assuming that some Lovecraftian horror will emerge and threaten the city, and that the characters will have to band together to defeat it. I've heard about this book from a couple different places, but most recently from Perry at Literary Niterary. Perry reviewed this as part of a wrap-up, and I will link that as well, but she made me even more excited to read this. Book number 2 is The Dem House by John Burnside. This will probably be the most disturbing book on this list. It tells the story of a man who is obsessed with discovering where language lives in the human body. So he performs experiments on his own children to try to discover the secrets of language. I imagine this book will be very visceral and hard to stomach. This will be the most difficult book on this list for me to read personally, because I expect there will be lots of child suffering or maybe even torture through his experimentation, and violence against children is like my biggest trigger in reading, so I will have to be in a very specific mindset to be able to read this book, but it just sounds really fascinating in a creepy, horrific way, of course. And I heard about this book from Jen Campbell. She's talked about it a few times, and yeah, it sounds fascinating, but definitely a horror. Book number 3 is Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. This is either middle grade or young adult, and I'm not actually sure how this would be classified. It might be horror, it might be more dystopian, it might be a mixture of those two, or it could be neither. But based on what I've heard, I'm putting it on this list. There definitely is a supernatural, magical element in any event. So this book is about Jam, who is a girl who lives in a world where it is said that there are no more monsters. They've gotten rid of all of the monsters. But then one day, this creature emerges from a painting and tells Jam that it is there to hunt a monster, that there's a monster in their midst. Now, I want to share with you a little snippet from the blurb. It says, "How do you save the world from monsters if no one will admit they exist?" So that makes me think that there might be some sort of commentary here, exploration of the missing stare phenomenon. If you're not familiar, the missing stare describes people or a person who is an abuser or harmful in some way to a community, and the community knows about them but doesn't do anything about them and ignores it and chooses to simply step over that missing stare rather than fix the stare, like fix the problem, aka do something about this harmful person. That's what the blurb makes me think of. I could be wrong, but if I am not, I would be very interested and happy to read a book that talks about this social issue. I heard about this book from Jesse at Bowties and Books, and they raved about it. It doesn't sound like anything I've read before, so I'm very excited. Book number 4 is Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado, or Machado. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce the last name there. This is a collection of short stories that examines women's lives and violence that is inflicted upon women's bodies. I don't know that this book would necessarily be classified as horror, but there's definitely obviously violence in the book, so I think even if the entire collection isn't horror, that there would definitely be kind of horror elements in some of the stories. I know that some other stories have been described as more emotionally resonant and less horrific, but I think the collection as a whole definitely sounds like it has that disturbing element that you would find in a horror novel. And finally, book number 5 is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I enjoy Stephen King's books for the most part, and according to Stephen King fans, this is one of his better horror novels. It's definitely one of his more famous ones, and it is one that I haven't read, so I really want to read it. It follows a family who moves to a small town in Maine, surprise, surprise, and in this town, the local children have created this like makeshift graveyard for family pets. And behind this graveyard is another burial ground, which I am sure is going to be the like what kickstarts the supernatural elements in this book. Based on the original like 1980s cover art, I am assuming that someone's beloved cat will come back from the dead. From what I've heard, this book is very quintessential King in its pacing. And by that I mean it's a slow build and it takes time to get to the horror, but then when you get there, it really gets you. And I really enjoy kind of that classic King pacing. And if King fans say this is good, then I can't wait to sink my teeth into it. Those are 5 horror and supernatural books that I want to read. If you have read any of these books, please let me know what you thought of them in the comments. And as always, thank you everyone for watching, and we'll chat soon. Take care. Bye.